There's an old saying that the only things in life that are guaranteed are death and paying taxes. I'd argue that there is a third, and that is change, because from the moment that you're born and enter into this world, you begin to change, and that never stops. In the beginning, the phases are pretty clear cut. It's childhood, then adolescence, then young adulthood, and then you get to adulthood. And that's when all the pathways start to diverge because everyone has a unique personality, and within it, there is either an aversion or a desire for change and risk. So naturally, if someone is really seeking out risk, their life will unfold in a very different way than someone who tries to avoid it at all costs. In one of the first moments I included in my book, Losing Linda May, a Cancer Caregiving Memoir, my family and I attend a luncheon ahead of my mom's stem cell transplant. And during that, I, as a caregiver, was able to speak about my experience thus far. And I talked about how, as I stepped into the role, I just kind of relinquished the notion that I had any control over the situation. And I tried to let go of all my desires to have routine and structure and order because I knew that change was inevitable. And the more I fought it, the more uncomfortable it would be. So if I just embraced it, then things wouldn't affect me as much as if I just resisted it. Even though I was only 26 years old when I made that statement, I still really stand by it because change is an inevitability. And the more we resist it, the more frustrating it will be when it's happening. And especially when it's forced upon you, like in the case of getting diagnosed with cancer. 10 years later, and having had cancer myself, I'd like to expand upon the sentiment and say that I don't think people are inherently against change as much as that they are against when change happens too quickly in their lives. Having a medical crisis is a perfect example of that because your life gets turned on its head. You have to now deal with all these new situations and circumstances. In the case of cancer, you're going through the diagnostic process, which includes all these scans and blood work and biopsies. Then you're starting treatment, so that could be chemotherapy or radiation or surgeries. Those bring about side effects that you're now having to experience, which you've never had in your life before. Then you have the uncertainty about whether or not you'll reach a remission or a permanent remission, and your priorities are getting reset in life as you're grappling with a potentially terminal illness. And so life is just chaos. It is thrown into disarray, and change is happening so fast. In one of the moments I included for August 22nd in my book, I'm talking to my mom who's kind of comatose again because she has vomited up all the antidepressants that she was on throughout the day just due to the placement of her nasogastric intubation. And I am just sharing all these feelings and emotions with her, even though she's not responding. I'm telling her things that I know she wants to hear, like how beautiful she still is. But in my head, I am thinking about how different she looks in this moment compared to the 59 years prior. My mom used to be age-defyingly beautiful, but all of the intense chemotherapy regimens that she has gone through, and then these 2 back-to-back craniotomies and being hospitalized for over a month has just radically changed her physical appearance. Conversely, in one of the moments I included for August 23rd, my dad and I are driving back to Wichita, Kansas from Omaha, Nebraska, and we passed by this same man who every Sunday when we were making that trek, we would see watering his plants out in his yard. And he seemed like he had lived a very routine-oriented life, and perhaps change hadn't been forced upon him like it had been my mom and our family. In the last video I released on August 20th, I talked about the perception of time and how it can really ebb and flow just depending on what is going on in someone's life. So if it's a time of a lot of consequential events happening, it can seem to slow down, or if it's just the day-to-day routine, it can seem to go by really quickly. And what is the common denominator of that? It is the rate of change. So in times when things are really routine and moving really quickly, there's a lot of slow, gradual change. At work, you might be finishing a project, you start a new project, you work your way to a promotion. But then when you get dealt a curveball, like a medical crisis, time really slows down because there's so much change happening so quickly that you are trying to keep up and keep pace with all that is happening. Like I said earlier in the video, everyone's comfort level with change will vary. And so naturally, they will seek out a rate of change that feels best to them. However, they will never know when that rate of change will plummet and get so screechingly slow, which some people may hate, or when it just skyrockets to the point where even someone who loves change cannot handle what is happening. With that in mind, I go back to that sentiment that I expressed as a 26-year-old at that stem cell transplant luncheon, and I think that my advice still holds true for rates of change, not just change. The more you can go with the flow when the rate of change in your life is going faster or slower than what you prefer, the better off you are, because you are not resisting what is inevitable. You are just trying to embrace it to the best of your ability, and you may actually find out that you prefer a different rate of change than what you have been locked into for such a long period of time. I doubt that will happen in the case of a medical crisis, but it surely could happen if you get a promotion at work and find that you really like a faster pace in the office. So through exposure to all those different rates of change, you can actually cultivate a better sense of self than just sticking to the course and staying stagnant your entire life, with the exception of when life throws curveballs at you. So stay open and receptive, and you will inevitably keep learning what is best for you. I'll be releasing another video on August 26th, and I'll be talking about rules and exceptions at medical institutions. So hit subscribe, leave any questions in the comments. The link to my book is in the description, and I will see you all on the 26th.